2020 election. Now, I'll tell you, if we would have went to bed on at 3 in the morning, if they hadn't overrode the algorithms, if our great President Donald Trump and all of you had not overrode the algorithms of the machines, just like Carrie Lake just did last night, right? That was like a rerun, right? That was a rerun. Okay, she gets up by 12,000 votes in the middle of the night. Shut down the machines. Hurry, we got to do something. What are we going to do? Well, they couldn't do it this time because they overrode it.
Finally, someone on the right is explaining why when candidates they like win, there's no election fraud. It's because they overwrote the algorithm. So this, I'm sure you know, is Mike Lindell of MyPillow fame on the CPAC stage, repeating one of the most absurd statements about how election works. What does he mean by overriding the election algorithm? Sounds an awful lot like the candidate you like was actually winning, so you threw all of your garbage nonsense about voter fraud out the window. What's even more frustrating about this situation is that Arizona, the state Carrie Lake won in, is one of the states Mike Lindell sued to block the use of voting machines he said were fraudulent. People like Lindell and Marjorie Taylor Greene are unstoppable on the right, despite being entirely incoherent, having no sound policy analysis, and offering conspiracy theories instead of actually doing the work to help the American people. And their message is sadly resonating and being propped up again and again by the right's media ecosystem. The Guardian reports that Lindell has poured $35 to $40 million into a wide crusade of lawsuits to get rid of voting machines that he faults for Trump's defeat way back in 2020. But again, when those voting machines turn out in his favor, that's just called overriding the algorithm, folks. Pushing this big lie again and again and again when results don't turn out in Republicans' favor is quite literally ripping the fabric of our democracy apart. What can the solution be when people like Lindell, who are financially backed by Trump's own political action committee, will not take facts for an answer? And here's another really interesting clip where Lindell goes off the rails, talking about how many journalists won't call him anymore for stories.
In the last 14 days since I announced it, the mainstream, all the bad media has went completely Fox on me. When they don't attack me, then you know I'm really over target, right? I've befriended a lot of them over there from the Daily Beast and the Business Insider and the horrible Yahoo News and the rotten Political, Huffington Post, Washington Post, New York Times. I could go on and on. They're all on my phone. I could call them one after another here and they won't answer.
Of course, these journalists aren't censoring him. They're keeping far away from his lies and deceit because of the irreparable harm it's already sown in American culture. But this is just the classic Republican grifter playbook. As soon as they're shunned by the mainstream media, they spin that to their followers as if it's because they are the only truth tellers in the world. And that does a huge disservice to actual advocates who day in and day out are putting their lives on the line in the midst of corporate media censorship. Because of course, there are certain stories that the media has an interest in keeping hidden. But Mike Lindell's election fraud lie is not one of them. But the big lie has gone far enough. And it's just that, a big lie. It's also a massive waste of time and a massive waste of money. Thanks so much for watching. You can follow me on all platforms at Caro Johnson 917.